Hey there, Andrew here with South Appalachian weather just after 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on August 5th, 2026. Putting this briefing together because this time we are going to look at the continued flooding and flash flooding risk across our region as we head through the next week that we've already been seeing across our region over the last week. Just to get into it, I mean, you can see the fog behind me. Our surface level moisture across the entire region has increased dramatically over the last week. We've been getting a lot of rainfall. I mean, a week ago, we were dealing with a pretty significant round of severe weather that produced some damaging winds in spots across our region, including in Polk, Fannin, and Gilmer counties. There was a cell that went through there. We had, of course, hail that happened in Murphy. We had a round of severe weather that happened in parts of Clay and Towns counties that produced damage. There were no reports that I have seen, at least, that confirmed anything tornadic. It was pretty much all straight line winds as far as everything that has come in for reports. But we had all of that. We had all of the rainfall from that. Then a few days later, we had a significant flash flood that occurred in parts of McKaysville, Copper Hill, and Mineral Bluff over in parts of Polk and Fannin counties. That's still, they're working through the cleanup process of that. And then last night, we had another small flash flood warning that affected parts of Morganton and Blue Ridge over in Fannin County, feeding into Blue Ridge Lake. Also, northern stretches of Gilmer County got a little of that too. And we had a few pop-up strong thunderstorms, nothing severe, but we had that. We had flood advisories were out. And the main thing is that pattern is going to be continuing. Now, I do want to emphasize something because I haven't put out a briefing the last few days, and the reason for that is a lot of this has been relatively isolated in nature. And I'm not saying that doesn't matter. I'm not saying that isn't important, but I do want to emphasize something. This channel is designed to augment the official sources, the official forecast, the official alerts. It is never designed, never was intended, and never will be intended to be replacing the official information. So because this is something that I'm doing on my own time, I just wanted to explain that. Just because you don't see something here on the channel does not mean don't pay attention to what's going on around you. In fact, as we continue on with the channel, I want to get into some of the scientific things and research that I've done and some of the things that you can do yourself, just observing the weather around you to be more weather aware, because it is hard to get communication in here sometimes. It is hard to get information, and you can not be your own weather service, but definitely have your own eyes on the weather and know a little of what you're looking at in order to be safer as you go about your day. So with that out of the way, here's what we're looking at for the remainder of this next week. If you look at the excessive rainfall outlook, the ERO from the Weather Prediction Center, we are in a marginal risk for the possibility of flooding and flash flooding the entire region for the entire next week. That is the same class level that we have been in for the last week or so because of all of the rainfall that we've been getting. We've had widespread rain. Again, you can see the fog behind me. Odds are, if you're looking at this briefing shortly after I've recorded it, you may see fog out your own window too. And that's just an indicator of how much moisture we've gotten. We've gotten in the cases of the flash floods that we've already seen over the last week, we've gotten 6+ inches. Added all together, in some spots, there's been almost 10 inches of rain accumulated over the last week. That moisture isn't going away. And we've already seen thunderstorms have been very capable of being very efficient at producing a lot of rainfall. Now, I'm not saying that we're just going to have absolutely catastrophic floods. This is not a Helene scenario. But even though they will be relatively isolated, as in one here, then one there, just like we have seen. And when I say isolated, I'm not negating the impacts that have occurred in Blue Ridge, Mineral Bluff, over into McKaysville and Copper Hill. Again, it's been devastating as far as some of the impacts that have happened. And I don't ever want to ignore that. But they have been relatively isolated. The thing is now, because of what we've seen, those same types of impacts could happen pretty much anywhere in our entire region because we've had so much rainfall and we'll continue to have this possibility of pockets of incredibly intense rainfall until this pattern flips, which again, right now we're looking at about a week as this large-scale weather system that's allowed all this moisture to accumulate just continues to lumber its way through the southeastern U.S. At the end of the day, a lot of this is a good thing because it is breaking down this drought. But again, please be weather aware. If you live near low-lying areas, near creeks and rivers, please be aware and heed any warnings that are issued. Best way to be getting that, no weather radio. It has shown itself to be literally faster than the internet, faster than the phones, better than anything else that we have over the last week. So definitely get a weather radio if you don't have one. Not sponsored, not affiliated in any way, but I do know they have them at Lowe's in both Ellijay and Murphy here in our region if you don't want to have to wait for shipping. So bear that in mind. But then also having multiple ways of receiving warnings. So the phones, things like that, always a good idea. And that applies too if you're out and about, driving around. Please do not drive through flooded roadways. Please don't go play in the floodwaters. It's incredibly dangerous. In fact, again, just to say this, just to emphasize, Enocoee Gorge, some of that water was potentially contaminated with some pretty terrible stuff. I just had to drive over through there yesterday. I had to go to Chattanooga for something. Looking at the stumps and trees and things that had been washing through there, floodwaters are not something to play with. Floodwaters are incredibly dangerous. And again, we need to bear that in mind. So we'll get through this. Again, as I say so often, stay weather aware. There's that possibility of an isolated pulse severe thunderstorm pretty much at any time just because we have so much heat and so much moisture. Severe weather as far as wind and hail and things like that isn't really the biggest concern. Always a possibility in the summer. But the biggest concern right now through the next week is this flood and flash flood risk across our entire region due to how much rainfall we've gotten and how much we could continue to get in isolated spots over the next week.